following ordinance change be adopted. Amend Chapter 16 Personnel, Section 16-13 Vacations of the Leominster Revised Ordinances by deleting Section 8 and replacing it with the following Section 8, effective January 1st, 2019. We did receive a letter dated May 8th, 2019 from the mayor, where he requested that this change be made. And the submittal that he's provided reads, an ordinance be it ordained by the City Council of Leominster as follows. Amend Chapter 16 Personnel, Section 16-13 Vacations of the Leominster Revised Ordinances by deleting Section 8 and replacing it with the following Section 8, effective January 1st, 2019. Number 8, employees entitled to 4 weeks vacation in a calendar year may buy back up to 10 days of vacation time. Employees entitled to 5 weeks vacation or more within a calendar year may buy back up to 15 days of vacation time. Employees terminating their service shall be entitled to buy back up to 6 weeks of vacation time. Before I open it up to the public, do any members of Legal Affairs have any questions or comments on Communication 76 at this point? Council Frida?
No, I'll wait till our discussion later.
Okay. Council Bedanza?
Likewise.
Okay. Do any members of the City Council have any questions or comments on Communication 76 at this time? Okay. Councilor Zephyr?
Yeah, I guess I'll reserve those for our discussion as well. I do have some questions, but I'll wait till later.
Okay. Does any member of the public wish to speak either in favor of or against Communication 76? Second time on the calendar, does any member of the public wish to speak either in favor of or against Communication 76? Third and final time, does any member of the audience wish to speak either in favor of or against Communication 76? Seeing none, I'm just going to go to my committee real quick, Mr. President. I'm not sure whether this is a public hearing that should be closed at this time. I personally don't know, other than, you know, the English language and what they're saying in this petition. I don't know the rationale behind it, why we're doing it, what the implications it has. So I have specific questions. I don't necessarily need Mayor Mazzarella to come down to address them, but, you know, I do have some questions that I'd like to pose to him.
Leave them open.
And, you know, so I'd like to leave the public hearing open just for that limited purpose. Councilor Frida, your thoughts on that?
I agree with that.
Councilor Bedanza?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to leave the public hearing open and schedule it for the next meeting of the City Council.
Okay, thank you. We'll get
Thank
back
you.
to you with a time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So Communication 77. This is a public hearing before the Leominster City Council relative to Communication 77. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the following ordinance change be adopted. Amend Chapter 16, Personnel, Section 16-30, Compensation Grades, by inserting therein the following sections A11, A12, and A13. And we do have a submittal from the mayors with various compensation grades. I would inquire of the president if this is something that needs to be read to the record at this point.
Yes.
It does. Okay. So this reads, an ordinance to increase salaries and wages of S1 through S10 salaried positions effective July 1st, 2018. To increase salaries and wages of S1 through S10 salaried positions effective July 1st, 2019. To increase salaries and wages of S1 through S10 salaried positions effective July 1st, 2020. Be it ordained by the City Council of Leominster as follows. Amend Chapter 16 Personnel, Section 16-30, Compensation Grades, by inserting therein the following sections: A11, A12, and A13. A11 reads as follows. Schedules, effective July 1st, 2018. Scales of pay for salaried positions in the service of the City of Leominster, Massachusetts. S1, minimum $29,813. I'm not sure what the number 2 represents. I'm assuming it's year, but $31,008. Number 3, $32,249. These are steps? Step 2, okay, I'm sorry. So step 2, $31,008. Step 3, $32,249. Mid, $33,536. Step 4, $34,878. Step 5, $36,279. Step 6, $37,724. The maximum is $38,480. S2, the minimum $33,394. Step 2, $34,727. Step 3, $36,117. The mid is $37,565. Step 4, $39,062. Step 5, $40,628. Step 6, $42,252. And the maximum is $43,102. S3, minimum $37,399. Step 2, $38,897. Step 3, $40,450. The mid is a $42,071. Step 4, $43,753. Step 5, $45,506. Step 6, $47,324. And the maximum is $48,270. Step 4, S4, $41,890. Step 2, $43,566. Step 3, $45,308. Mid is $47,116. Step 4, $49,001. Step 5, $50,963. Step 6, $53,000, and the max is $54,059. S5, minimum $46,917. Step 2, $48,794. Step 3, $50,741. The mid is $52,773. Step 4, $54,881. Step 5, $57,077. Step 6, $59,359. The maximum is $60,549. Step 6, S6, the mid is $52,544. Step 2, $54,645. Step 3, $56,835. The mid is $59,103. Step 4, $61,468. Step 5, $63,928. Step 6, $66,486. The maximum is $67,818. S7, the minimum is $58,845. Step 2 is $61,181. Step 3 is $63,653. The mid is $66,200. Step 4, $68,847. Step 5, $71,597. Step 6, $74,458. And the maximum is $75,949. S8, the minimum is $65,911. Step 2, $68,549. Step 3, $71,289. The mid is $74,143. Step 4 is $77,108. Step 5, $80,189. Step 6, $83,400. The maximum is $85,065. S9, the minimum is $73,819. Step 2, $76,773. Step 3, $79,844. The mid is $83,035. Step 4, $86,363. Step 5, $89,815. Step 6, $93,405. The maximum is $95,272. S10, the minimum, $82,521. Step 2, $85,986. Step 3, $89,425. The mid is $93,002. Step 4, $96,725. Step 5, $100,590. Step 6, $104,615. The maximum is $106,706. And that is the schedule effective July 1st, 2018. The schedule to be proposed to be effective July 1st, 2019. Scales of pay for salaried positions in the service of the City of Leominster, Massachusetts. S1, the minimum, $30,708. Step 2, $31,939. Step 3, $33,217. The mid is $34,543. Step 4, $35,925. Step 5, $37,368. Step 6, $38,856. The maximum is $39,635. S2, the minimum is $34,396. Step 2, $35,769. Step 3, $37,201. The mid is $38,692. Step 4, $40,234. Step 5, $41,847. Step 6, $43,520. The maximum is $44,396. S3, the minimum is $38,521. Step 2, $40,064. Step 3, $41,664. The mid, $43,334. Step 4, $45,066. Step 5, $46,872. Step 6, $48,744. The maximum is $49,719. S4, the minimum, $43,147. Step 2, $44,873. Step 3, $46,668. The mid, $48,530. Step 4, $50,472. Step 5, $52,492. Step 6, $54,590. The maximum is $55,681. S5, the minimum is $48,325. Step 2, $50,258. Step 3, $52,264. The mid is $54,357. Step 4, $56,528. Step 5, $58,790. Step 6, $61,140, and the maximum is $62,366. Step 6, $54,121 is the minimum. Step 2, $56,285. Step 3, $58,541. The mid, $60,877. Step 4, $63,313. Step 5, $65,846. Step 6, $68,481. The maximum, $69,853. S7, the minimum, $60,611. Step 2, $63,017. Step 3, $65,563. The mid, $68,186. Step 4, $70,913. Step 5, $73,745. Step 6, $76,692. The maximum, $78,228. Step 8, S8, the minimum, $67,889. Step 2, $70,606. Step 3, $73,428. The mid, $76,368. Step 4, $79,422. Step 5, $82,595. Step 6, $85,902. And the maximum, $87,617. S9, $76,034 is the minimum. Step 2, $79,077. Step 3, $82,240. The mid, $85,527. Step 4, $88,954. Step 5, $92,510. Step 6, $96,208. The maximum, $98,131. S10, the minimum, $84,997. Step 2, $88,566. Step 3, $92,108. The mid, $95,793. Step 4, $99,627. Step 5, $103,608. Step 6, $107,754, and the maximum, $109,908. That is the schedule proposed effective July 1st, 2019. The schedule effective July 1st, 2020, scales of pay for salaried positions in the service of the City of Leominster, Massachusetts. S1, the minimum, $31,630. Step 2, $32,898. Step 3, $34,214. The mid, $35,580. Step 4, $37,003. Step 5, $38,490. Step 6, $40,022. The maximum, $40,825. S2, the minimum, $35,428. Step 2, $36,843. Step 3, $38,318. The mid, $39,853. Step 4, $41,442. Step 5, $43,103. Step 6, $44,826. The maximum, $45,728. S3, the minimum, $39,677. Step 2, $41,266. Step 3, $42,914. The mid, $44,635. Step 4, $46,418. Step 5, $48,279. Step 6, $50,207. The maximum, $51,211. S4, the minimum, $44,442. Step 2, $46,220. Step 3, $48,069. The mid, $49,986. Step 4, $51,987. Step 5, $54,067. Step 6, $56,228. The maximum, $57,352. S5, the minimum is $49,775. Step 2, $51,766. Step 3, $53,832. The mid, $55,988. Step 4, $58,224. Step 5, $60,554. Step 6, $62,975. The maximum, $64,237. S6, the minimum, $55,745. Step 2, $57,974. Step 3, $60,298. The mid is $62,704. Step 4, $65,213. Step 5, $67,822. Step 6, $70,536. The maximum, $71,949. S7, the minimum, $62,430. Step 2, $64,908. Step 3, $67,530. The mid is $70,232. Step 4, $73,041. Step 5, $75,958. Step 6, $78,993. And the maximum, $80,575. S8, the minimum, $69,926. Step 2, $72,725. Step 3, $75,631. The mid, $78,660. Step 4, $81,805. Step 5, $85,073. Step 6, $88,480. And the maximum is $90,246. S9, the minimum, $78,316. Step 2, $81,450. Step 3, $84,708. The mid, $88,093. Step 4, $91,623. Step 5, $95,286. Step 6, $99,095. The maximum, $101,075. Step S10, the minimum, $87,547. Step 2, $91,223. Step 3, $94,872. The mid, $98,667. Step 4, $102,616. Step 5, $106,717. Step 6, $110,987. And the maximum, $113,206. And that is proposed to be effective July 1st, 2020. Pretty impressive.
It is.
I'll never complain about Councilor Cormier's stop sign. Again, similar to the last communication, go to legal affairs first. Councilor Frida, do you have any questions or comments at this point?
Yeah, I think I've got some questions. You want to leave it open?
Okay. And Councilor Bedanza?
I have no questions.
Okay.
I'm in favor of moving forward with this.
You're in favor of moving forward with this? Okay. Are you aware of any background on this that you can add for the council's benefit?
Just that these are, I mean, obviously, this goes back, it's retroactive to fiscal 18.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time coming, and this was negotiated. This is what we were sent. So I'm ready to move forward.
Any other councilors have any questions or comments? Councilor Zephyr?
Yep, thank you very much. I do have some questions. This isn't negotiated. This is non-union personnel.
It's still negotiated.
Well, I don't know how it was negotiated, so that's one of my questions. So I do have questions and would ask that the Legal Affairs Chair leave the public hearing open. Thank you.
Okay. Any other councilors have any questions or comments?
My main question would be, is this everybody that's non-union? I mean, I think you read quite a few of them, but is that a certain group or is that everyone?
Okay.
Isn't it
Okay,
usually non-union city hall employees?
generally, yes.
But is it all of them? Is it middle management? Is it upper management? Is it everybody? That's the question.
Okay. Counselor Zephyr?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to add to the questions, if you want specific questions, I have the same question as Council Frida. Non-union, is it just City Hall, or are there other folks that would be included in this? And how does this compare to union steps? And what is the negotiation process? Because I don't know who negotiates with who in terms of the increases, so that would be helpful for me to know. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you had the personnel director down here, would that be helpful?
It probably would be, yeah. It's probably not a
We
bad
can ask for
idea.
it when you're going to go further time tonight?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if the action calls for further time, we'll see if we can have the personnel director down here at the continuation of a hearing if it's
Yeah.
continued.
Okay. Any other counselors have comments or questions at this time? If not, I'm going to go to the public. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to address the council either in favor of or against Communication 77? Second time, is there any member of the council who wishes to, any member of the audience who wishes to address the council either in favor of or against Communication 77? Third and final time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against Communication 77? I'll just do some quick subcommittee work. I have a pretty good idea of what this is, but I do think those questions should be answered. And I don't think another 2 weeks is gonna hurt the process. So I would be in favor of keeping the hearing open one more time.
I agree with
And
that.
Council Frida,
I agree.
Council Bedanz, I understand you're
Well,
not in favor of that?
respectfully disagree.
Okay. So we would ask that by a 2-to-1 vote, we'll keep the public hearing open and ask that it be heard next council meeting. And whoever, whoever is best equipped to answer those questions, and I'll certainly go over them with the clerk at the end of the meeting to make sure we're on the same page. So whether it's the personnel director or the mayor himself, who can come down for 5 minutes, just answer those questions so we all know what's going on going forward. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to pause for a moment from the public hearings out of respect to the department head, Mr. Racine, that's here this evening. Could you please join us in the chambers? Thank you for coming down this evening, Ray. Okay, we're going to, Ray, do you want to give an overview of this, or would you rather just have questions asked?
I can give a
If anyone
brief-
has any questions.
I can give a brief overview
Please,
if that
thank you.
would help.
Thank you.
Cemetery's 55 acres of property that the city owns and maintains with 3 people. In the summer, we have 4 because I hire a seasonal guy. Over the years, been a source of concern from a lot of people. The last 5 years, we made a concerted effort to change that. And we have a new working foreman down there, Stephen Picard, who is tremendous. And I think that many of you have seen a change in that area, in that place, and we could hopefully continue to move forward. Maintenance has not really been done to any of those buildings since they were built. Along the way, I've been trying to come up with ways to fix things. I think you'll see in your packet, there'll be a submittal to you from Peter Reynolds from McKenzie Engineering for some structural issues that occur and are occurring that need to be corrected. Handicap accessibility needs to happen. So, it was mentioned earlier, things take a lot of time, and we tried to get Wendy Weeks and I tried to get an historical grant, didn't get it. We came up with a bunch of different ideas, so this year, I guess, I chose to just throw everything out there and let people decide what they wanted to fix. Personally, if the money came from perpetual care or free cash, I don't care. But things need to be addressed. So I gave you a submittal of, for the last 3 years, of everything that I've asked for out of perpetual care. Those are in the letters. Things of absolute necessity. We had a 15-year-old lawnmower blew up. We bought that. We put a sprinkler system in the front. There was some neglect and carelessness to some headstones that were plowed over and hit. I had to repair them because the family members were not happy, so I came to you for that, and we did make those repairs. Now, what I'm trying to do is fix the chapel. I can see, you can see in the photos, chapel's in bad shape. That overhanging roof is ready to fall off, and we got to do something about it. The main building that people go in needs to be corrected and handicap accessible. Somehow, some way, the chapel is going to be really hard to get handicap accessible. So I'm trying to come up with a portable, removable ramp, if I can do that. So those are the things we're looking. We're looking for columbarium. Everybody's been asking for it. We're running out of space. We're trying to move forward. We saw one that they built in a surrounding community. We're trying to move forward with that. We got to pave some of those roads down there that we actually have to sell lots on roads that exist in mud. And so all these things we're trying to clean up. I mean, it's a big undertaking from our end for this year, but we want to move forward. And I mean, I've got nothing but complaints over the last 3 or 4, I mean, excuse me, people were very pleased at what's changed at the cemetery in the last 3 or 4 years. So we want to keep that process moving forward.
Okay.
So I'll take any questions that anyone may have.
Ray, is any of the property considered historical?
Yes,
Okay, so you're dealing with that when you do deal with the repairs as well?
yes.
So, talking about the slate, I mean, that has to be an expensive proposition for
come
you
off,
to be able to match
and
that slate.
They're going to take it off, remove it, and hopefully replace it. We've also checked into metal and plastic,
Right.
slate replicas, if we can do that.
Do people have access to each one of the buildings today, or do you have a couple of them shut down?
The chapel is not open to the public,
Okay.
but the main building that people go in to purchase the plots from is open.
Right. And how do you deal with people with disabilities as far as accessing the office?
It's not that possible as we speak.
Okay,
So that's what we're trying to correct.
all right. All right, very good. Counselor Cormier first? I'll go right around, folks, all right?
Sure.
I guess some of the questions that came up was, I know we get some more repairs to make to the chapel and the mausoleum. Aren't there special accounts, like endowments that will put aside, or donation accounts that will put aside to specifically fix those structures? And how much is in there, do you know?
I know there's I think there's at least 2 separate. I believe, in this round, I am not doing anything to the mausoleum. It's extensive, and it's really going to be biting off more than we can chew at this time. But I think that the perpetual care money that we're accessing does speak for these types of repairs. I'm not sure how they're exactly laid out. I know that it is somewhere within this building, but I did not check into it to that level. I just know that, and I'm hoping 85,000 per is enough. May not be, I'm just hoping it is.
Right.
So, I mean, how it's actually laid out and where it's supposed to go, I'm not sure. I'm just thinking that whoever divvies up that money, I will get, that specific line item to that specific repair.
Okay. Yeah, because that was my question, before was, we were taking it out of the perpetual care account, and I thought that these buildings had a particular fund, that we could dip into, and I didn't know how much was in them and when the last time was we took money out of them.
I looked
and
at some of
why
them, and
not?
some were for flowers and some were for different specific things. So I don't know how accessible those are to me for these applications, but like I said, I didn't really look into it that deeply. I just need to get these things fixed. We can't keep going the way we're going. We can't have a building that older citizens go into that aren't accessible. We're headed for trouble. I'm trying to avoid it.
How much and where is the money going to come out of for the columbariums, and what's
It's all coming out of perpetual care that you guys approved.
and what's the return going to be on that? I'm sure we're
Those-
going to make money, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think they were, I can't remember what they said. The exact pricing, I don't have yet, but I think there's going to be 72 total units at the end that'll be able to be purchased.
Okay.
I'll get those details to you.
Hopefully, my thought is that, as those are sold, whatever money we make should go into a separate account, so that years from now, when maintenance needs to be done to that columbarium, that's where the money comes from.
I would be okay with that.
I mean, we know that that's what's gonna
Yeah.
happen eventually,
We do have a proposal after, if this is very successful, which we feel it is because we get asked all the time. We have locations for 2 additional units. One will be Octagon, it's pretty cool,
Nice.
yeah.
And one last thing, Cemetery Commission, have you spoken to the mayor about maybe resurrecting one again so that we can
I
have
would
some
not have a
oversight?
problem with that.
I think, if we had reasonable people that sat on a cemetery commission and made recommendations and shared ideas, maybe we wouldn't have to bring the cemetery back someday. It would just stay where it should be, because there'd be people watching and, advocating, so,
I would not be against that.
okay. All set.
Thank you. Council Pauline Cormier? Council Odenger?
I'm okay.
Council Bonanza?
Ray, not a question, just a comment, because, my sort of interests bring me to cemeteries frequently. And I want to compliment you and your guys for the work that you've done, really over the last 10 years or so. Both Pine Grove as well as Evergreen have definitely been improved greatly. I know there's a lot still to do, but they're a long way from where they were 10 years ago. So,
Yes.
thank you.
I want to thank you for noticing, because we really have tried to make that place look better. I mean, even in Mill Street, the sidewalks and the fencing is tremendous, but the fencing is huge money. This year, I've been trying to do it piece by piece, and this year, I think I have 28 more sections that we're going to install at some point this summer. A bunch of it was donated back when, from Mr. Gagny, so that really helped us out. But we've been, as money becomes available, I mean, if people want to spend the money, I'll do the whole thing. I mean, I'll do whatever we want to do, but I'm trying to pick and choose what we spend on, But it is starting to look really good over there.
Council Bonanza, all set?
All set, thank you.
Thank you. Council Feckley?
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, we were there yesterday, so, you could see some
Yeah.
of the improvements. But the buildings, definitely, every time I drive
Yeah,
by.
it's pathetic.
It's a shame, because they're really aesthetically pleasing-looking buildings if they, you could see the promise in them, if they were cleaned up
Yeah.
and fixed. But I just one question, just for the public. Can you explain what a columbarium is?
It is there's pictures.
Right, but for the public, because I think it's a word that most people don't know.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't.
didn't know until-
I didn't know what they were either.
Yeah.
But it's a series of cubby holes with locking doors
Right,
that cremations are,
okay.
which it seems to be the thing of the future.
Makes sense, definitely.
Arlington Cemetery, they call it the niche. In a lot of World War II,
It's been called a
have been
niche. I
buried
think
in
those
it.
things are called niches. Each individual unit is called a niche, I think. So we're trying to go for something that's all granite. We went throwing around granite, inside's aluminum, but we're trying to stay with all granite, I think, is what we're trying to do. I don't want to cheap out on the thing. I mean, it doesn't pay.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks for mentioning the Mill Street area, Ray, because it looks beautiful. It really does. I go by there all the time. And it not only looks really nice, but I think in terms of just public safety and for just keeping the cemetery looking really good, it looks great. I do have a question. When people come in and they buy a plot, or they buy a plot, basically, I guess at this point, is there a contract? Did they sign a contract?
Yes.
Okay. Is that explicit? Does it say, does it break down the fee for which part of it's for perpetual care and what part of it is for?
I'm not sure. I tried to
Okay.
have Steve Peacock come.
Okay,
When he's not mowing and cleaning and fixing, he's
Yep.
selling plots,
Right.
so I tried to get him to come. I wanted you to meet him. He's really,
Yeah, we like that.
he's a caring, competent person, and he's perfect for this job. He was one of my best guys. I hated putting him down there, but it really paid off for us.
no, it has. It
I
absolutely.
can get the details on what is included when they sign that.
That would be helpful because I think it might speak to some of the points that Council Cuomo has raised in the past about perpetual care monies. And as long as people are signing a contract and it's very clear that, these monies are going to be used for general maintenance, for this kind of maintenance, for
Right,
whatever,
that'd be great.
we could just be clearer with the public and they know what they're buying.
And quite honestly, we need to raise our prices because we were compared to, I think, we charge out of town is the same rate that they pay in their other communities. So we can't have that. So we're gonna change, we're working on changing the rates, and I'm trying to figure out exactly who we need to go through to do that. And we've been talking about that for the past year, but that's something we need to act upon.
Well, I'm glad you raised that point because when Council Comey was talking about making money, on the new columbarians, that concerns me because it's very expensive for people to buy a plot and have a funeral and go through that whole process. It's really, really expensive. So we want to be sensitive to the cost of operating the cemetery as a city department, but we also don't want to, create a hardship or price people out of being able to be buried at Evergreen. So, we'd be happy to work with you on that if you, and I think charging out-of-towners for the privilege of being buried in a beautiful historic cemetery, I like that idea better than, increasing the rates for local folk. So thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Dabrowski?
No, I don't have any questions. I appreciate you coming to us with the concerns. I mean, the legitimate concerns, and it's, I agree with Council Bedanza. We've been, going to Memorial Day, for many years now, and they looked beautiful yesterday. Really, a lot of improvement. In fact, Council Marchand and I went and said hello to our old friend Wayne Nickel. So we saw, even more of the cemetery, and it did. It looked really good.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Frida?
All right.
Uh-oh. She's warming up.
Unfortunately, I guess, my issue is always with Pat and his love to do something with that chapel. And I think one of my questions was how much we've spent on that chapel. It was a bone of contention down here when he first wanted to do it. He really thought, and maybe he really felt, that it was going to get a lot of use. But we had funeral directors come down here that said it was competing with their business. When someone has a service in there, if they don't go to a church, they have a service within their funeral parlor, and then they're not going to go to the chapel if they just had the service. So I know I lost my vote on that when I was in a minority, but I was still concerned. I mean, we put a lot of money into that chapel, and now we're being asked to put money in again. And again, I know it's not your fault, and I'm not even going to throw Pat under the bus. It was something he was passionate about, and we just respectfully disagreed on it. But I'm concerned about putting more money into it. It's a beautiful building from the outside. Is it ever going to be used as a chapel? I mean, Pat thought people would want to get married there. That's how far he was defending
No, in Pat's
the
defense,
chapel.
all those issues have been brought up to me also about wanting to use it, and then the funeral homes not wanting to take so I'm in the middle. I'm just the pawn. I'm just trying to, this point now, the inside of it is pretty nice. There's a new heating system, so it's usable. But having that roof fall off and that slate, it's not safe, and it's a historic building, and it's beautiful and needs to be fixed. We can't leave it, it's gone on too long.
I don't
want to get to the point where
disagree.
the thing falls off and then it costs us 10 times as much.
I don't
So-
disagree with fixing it. What I disagree with is making it a viable chapel. Fix the roof, fix the side, and make it the historical piece that it is. But I don't think we have to go spending a lot of money in the inside to make it a functional chapel, because I don't think there's any value to that. That's just my opinion. And I know you're in the middle, because that was Pat's dream to do that.
Well, quite honestly, this is why I backed off making that handicap accessible and spending the money to restructure that stonework, which I don't know if we can even afford. So that's why my thought was to try to get something portable, movable, reusable, that we can either slide inside the building at some point if someone does want to use it. Maybe someone wants to get married there. I wouldn't stop it.
You really think somebody wants to get married in a cemetery?
I don't know.
I hope
Wait a
not.
minute, they come down there and they spend a weekend with their vans.
If I may, I was actually visiting Mount Auburn Cemetery, and they have a chapel, and I looked around, I'm like, what's going on here? There was a huge wedding in there.
Yeah, people like
Yeah,
historical.
so when you said that, I was thinking of Mount Auburn.
This isn't a huge chapel.
No, but you
No,
could
but-
get 60, 80 people in there. Because I've been to services there.
You can go to that conversation if you want. I just really,
No, I'm good. I'm just trying to get this stuff fixed.
I hear you.
The back, if you've ever looked at that building from the back, the building where they sell the plots from, it has a unique opportunity to take that garage door out and put a ramp in. So that's a pretty easy fix. I watched a guy trying to wheel his mother in a wheelchair, and they can't, it's just not the right thing to do. We owe it to Leominster to fix that particular part of that building.
I don't disagree. I just don't agree that it should be for top dollar. And
For what should be the top dollar.
for redoing a chapel to,
It's a beautiful building. Even if it's just there for looks, it just makes the cemetery look that much more attractive with that beautiful stonework. I just feel bad I can't get that stained glass window on the back that's not there anymore. But, I'm trying to do it as economically, and I go at things, I try to do it the right way till somebody stops me. And I don't want to not do this the right way. That thing deserves to be fixed. And I wish it was 10 years ago that we did it, but we didn't.
what's the ballpark number you're looking for the chapel?
85,000.
85?
I think that's low, but I'm hoping it's not.
And do you know how much we spent prior to that? 'Cause we put a lot of money into it a few years back.
I can't imagine that much. How much? I can find out, but I don't think it was as much as, I don't know.
I thought it was
I don't know.
substantial. Maybe it wasn't substantial. Maybe the whole
They
disagreement was
painted
just a
some things
funeral
and cleaned some,
parlor.
they didn't really do much.
There was
They
a
put
lot of
heating system.
volunteer work by Mr. Lapointe in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's the right way of crazy, that guy. Doyle feels the way it is because of him.
Yeah.
And he's a one-of-a-kind type guy. So, I was a disciple, I had his Kool-Aid, and I followed him, and I did what he wanted. I just tried to do what the guy wanted. So now I got my way. It's a little different, but see how it goes.
I don't disagree with Councilor Bedanza and Councilor Dombrowski. It was beautiful yesterday. There's no question.
It's gonna get better.
But, the roads need to be fixed. There's a lot of expenses there.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna try to,
And I know it's.
I got
catch-up
contracts
time.
out for paving the road, and actually, if you look at this packet, this contract that I have here is what we're sending out. This is the exact contract I'm sending out right now to try to get bids. And the reason I came up with the $85,000 amount is I physically took a contractor that does that type of work down there. And we walked through it, and I was aimed at what to pick off and what not to. So,
If you would, I'd just be interested in what we spent the last time. If it's easy enough to get, if not, don't worry about it.
I'll try to figure that out. I know the guy that was involved in it.
Anything else, Counselor?
No, I'm good, thank
Ray,
you.
thank you very much. Appreciate
One
it.
more thing, I think I have another petition on, I just want to tell you,
Go ahead.
just
Go
explain it to you right now. We've been saddled with MS4, federal and state mandated situations that are not funded, and OSHA. We are now OSHA mandated. So this is real quick. Most communities have an MS4 coordinator and an OSHA coordinator, $75,000 a year jobs each. I have one person I'm going to give both to, and I want to change his salary from a S5 to an S7. Very money well spent.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
appreciate it.
Anything else? All right.
That's good, thank you.
Okay.
The meeting for May 28th, 2019 is now in session. Please stand and join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We begin with the roll call vote of the honorable members of the council, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Oettinger.
Present.
Councilor Bonanza.
Present.
Councilor Feckley.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Dabrowski.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
All 9 members are present. Is the chairwoman of records ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. I have the minutes of the city council meeting of May 13th, 2019. There are just a few little typos I'll go over with the city clerk. However, other than that, I find them to be in order and ask that they be placed on file.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the minutes? So moved. Do I have a motion for recess? Seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. We're in recess. We'll now go back to the hearings. We have Communication 78. Mr. Chairman, if you want to give abbreviated versions from this point forward, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a public hearing before the Leominster City Council. Communication 78, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the following ordinance change be adopted. Amend Chapter 16 Personnel, Section 16-33 Longevity on Regular Compensation of the Leominster Revised Ordinance by deleting Section A1 and replacing it with Section A1 as follows, effective July 1st, 2018. We did get a submittal from the mayor's office with a proposal which reads, an ordinance be it ordained by the City Council of Leominster as follows, amend Chapter 16, Personnel 16, Section 16-33, Longevity on Regular Compensation of the Leominster Revised Ordinances by deleting Section A1 and replace it with Section A1 as follows, effective July 1st, 2018. In addition to the basic annual salaries on Schedule S, the following longevity schedule payments shall be added in accordance with the length of permanent full-time service performed for the city, including service in lower grades. After 5 years, $130. After 10 years, $260 per year. After 15 years, $700 per year. After 20 years, $1,200 per year. After 25 years, $1,500 per year. After 30 years, $2,000 per year. After 35 years, $2,300. Beginning with the 26th year, an additional $25 per year. Before I open it up to the public, I'll go to legal affairs quickly. Councilor Frida, do you have any questions or comments at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay. Councilor Bedanza?
No questions, no comments.
Do any members of the city council have any questions or comments? Councilor Cormier?
Yeah, I should have, when we were on C-76, I should have made some like comments as I'll make on this one, but I'll do that during the regular meeting since we're off that hearing. But I just want to point out that I was looking at the ordinance book, and the last time we amended this section was on November 22nd, 2004. And I think that when you compare what is there now to what is being proposed, it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, what's there now only goes up to the 25th year, and then it talks about $5 for every additional year. So it looks like they added 2 more lines to make a 30th year mark and a 35th year mark. But I also would question why we're leaving that last sentence in there now, because are you gonna get both? You're gonna go up to 35 years, and you're gonna get $2,300 plus the additional money for every year after the 26th year. That's just, it's almost like maybe that last line should have come out. I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like you're getting both. When you look at how it's explained in the old version versus what's being proposed, it just looks different. It doesn't look like it belongs to have that 26th year line, because they're adding a 30th and a 35th. They're adding language for those benchmarks.
No, I think those are good points, and we can certainly bring those up. Any other
I
counselors
think the
have any?
question behind that is, are they being amended or replaced? I think that's significant.
Well, it's being replaced with that
Yep.
new section in its entirety by way of amendment.
Right.
So it's kind of both. Anyone else have any other counselor have a question or comment? Counselor Bedanza?
Yeah, that's a good point by the Ward 3 counselor. Clearly, it's a typo. That last sentence should read, beginning with the 35th year instead of the beginning with the 36th year
Yes.
instead of the 26th year.
Right.
I'm sure that's the case.
Or it
Yeah.
should be taken out altogether, one or
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah. Counselor Zephyr, do you have
Yeah,
anything?
I do. Yep, thank you very much. I know that we did get a letter from the comptroller explaining what it was about. The ordinance update will allow non-union employees to mirror longevity payments that union members have already been awarded. My question, and I guess this is through the chair to the clerk, would be to ask, if we do bring down Ms. Hurley, there are 6 unions in the city, I think. 3 in the fire department, 2 in the police department, the DPW. And the middle managers union, so there's 7, right? So I would like to know which unions, all or none or 2, or, that's a question that I have, that I'd like answered. I mean, I'm happy to support this, because I know that we do have employees in the city that are reaching those milestones. But I would like an answer to the question about which unions have been awarded that longevity.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor or against Communication 78? Second time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or against Communication 78? And third and final time, does any member of the audience wish to address the council either in favor of or in opposition to Communication 78? Seeing none, as with the previous 2 communications, my position would be to leave the hearing open, reschedule it for the next public hearing, for the next council meeting. I'll provide the clerk with the specific questions. I think a lot of this is axiomatic, but I think that we just need to convey to the public the specifics and the whys, as to why this is being amended.
Okay.
Okay.
Please poll your committee.
Councilor Frida, you good with that?
I agree with that.
Councilor
I'm
Bedanza?
going to stay consistent with my prior position.
Okay. I agree. 2-1, the legal affairs vote is to leave the public hearing open.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll take it up next time.
Right, thank you. We'll now move on to Communication 79.
Public hearing on C-79. That's
Yeah.
finance, I guess.
Right.
So C-79, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the attached loan order for $11,294,000 be adopted for finance of an aeration basin and secondary clarifier upgrade project. You want me to read the loan order, proposed loan order, Mr. President?
I've read it. Does anyone need it read again? It has to be read aloud in the hearing? Sorry about that.
All right. So, City of Leominster loan order, aeration basin, secondary clarifier upgrade. City of Leominster and City Council ordered that $11,294,000 is appropriated for the purpose of financing an aeration basin and secondary clarifier upgrade project, including without limitation, all costs thereof. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow such amount and issue bonds or notes. Therefore, in the general law, chapter 44, or any other enabling legislation, and/or Chapter 29C of the general laws, that such bonds and notes shall be general obligations of the city, unless the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, determines that they should be issued as limited obligations and may be secured by local system revenues as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 29C. That the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C and in connection therewith to enter into a financing agreement and/or a security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contract with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state aid available for the project or for financing thereof, and that the mayor or the treasurer is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project and to make any other action necessary or convenient to carry out the project in this vote. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amounts authorized to be borrowed to pay such cost by a like amount. Apparently, the equipment, the idea here is for the city to upgrade this particular equipment, the aeration basin and secondary clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant to reduce the nutrient load of the effluent. I did have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Brooks today about this. He is happy to come down. There's quite a bit of detail to this. Some of it involves the Foley Amendment, which would potentially allow the city to borrow this money at a zero interest cost basis. So that's a possibility. And there's also, by the time that this bond would actually go out to the market and actually be entered into, we would be retiring a lot of the existing bonds. And Mr. Brooks, I'm sure some of you will have questions about what impact this might have on rates, if any, and things of that nature. So I will first go to members of finance and see if they have any questions or comments.
Mr. President,
It's a hearing, go ahead.
I would have definitely some questions on the rates. I would love to hear from Mr. Brooks, just so he could explain this.
Okay. Yeah, my questions were going to be, do we have the revenue stream already in place to repay this loan? But I know you mentioned that we're going to retire some debt and then take this on. So I'm just curious how much we are retiring versus how much we're taking on, and what the difference will be, if any, and you know, what the rate increase, you know, would be. So I mean, obviously we can't enter into this enter into a loan without having a revenue stream to pay for it. So I'm curious as well as to what those numbers are.
From the discussion I had with him, I don't think there's any problem with that. The question ultimately will be is what kind of cash flow they want to have available for other work when this is done. So I think he wants to come down and talk to us about it. There's no particular urgency to it. So I think the plan is he's going to come, he's willing to talk about this when we talk about the DPW budget, which I'll get into more detail about later in terms of budget generally. So that would be a good time for us to bring our questions to him.
Okay.
So I think, you know, obviously I'm interested in if any other councilors have any questions or comments, but I think the idea is to leave the public hearing open.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so are any other members of the public, I'm sorry, of the council have any questions or comments? That being said, I'll go to the public. Does any member of the public wish to speak with regard to C-79? Does any member of the public wish to be heard relative to C-79? Third and final time, any member of the public wish to be heard relative to C-79? Mr. President, I guess the recommendation would be to leave the public hearing open.
Thank you, thank you. Does anyone need a break before we go back into session?
No.
Okay, we're now going to begin the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on any matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their communication within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. The first speaker is Tom Kanakia.
Tom Kanakia, 315 Joslin Street in Leominster. I'd like to talk about the budgeting process.
Specifically, is that on the calendar tonight?
I'm sure it'll come up in finance.
It's not listed on the calendar tonight.
Free cash certification. If it's not listed on the calendar.
Mr. Chairman, do you have anything on free cash tonight?
I have a bit of an update.
If it's not listed on the
But,
calendar,
Okay,
I'll,
you can.
In fairness to Mr. Kanaki, I do anticipate during my financial report, not only going over the stabilization fund activity and balances, but also talking about when the budget is before us
Okay,
and setting up hearings on the budget, as well as a brief update as to free cash.
okay, that's still not listed on the agenda, but it is finance,
I mean,
excuse me?
I'll clarify.
No, hold on one second.
Okay,
Before you do anything.
sure.
It is not listed specifically as an item before the city council this evening. However, I'm extending a courtesy to you as indicated by the chairman of finance. So you have 2 minutes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, congratulations on marching in that terrific heat yesterday. I was in the shade, and I greatly respect what the long march that you made. It was hot. As you all know, Leominster has not closed its FY18 books. We're 8 months past the September 30th, 2018 deadline, and I'd like to make this clear for people watching at home. I'm not talking about waiting for the
Are you
DOR.
talking to people at home or talking to the council?
Both. If you'd like me
Well, you're
to-
addressing the council. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. City Hall has not submitted the paperwork to certify and close our books. 300 cities in the Commonwealth can submit on time. My question is, what is the holdup with Leominster? My concern is FY19 closes in 1 month, and City Hall should be presenting the FY20 budget now. In this 8-month delay, it's not good for anyone. If FY18 free cash was certified, I would think department heads might feel willing to make reasonable budget increase requests. Doesn't City Hall think it's important that the council have free cash certified while they prepare for the FY20 budget season? There is a cost to this delay, too. I provided you with a cherry sheet payment history for school revenue sources. As you can see, the state has withheld Chapter 70 aid for our schools starting in March of this year for the amount of $20.5 million. Last week, the Sentinel and Enterprise had an article about Ashburnham's troubles in submitting its free cash statements. That's big news for a small town. Why can't City Hall submit its documentation on time and not 8 months late, get free cash certified, and close its FY18 books? Quite simply, what is the holdup? Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Would anyone else in the audience like to address the council? Second call, third and final call? If not, thank you. Public forum is closed. We're now going to get into the meeting. We have communications from the mayor, beginning with communication 89. If there's no objection, we'll take 89, 90, and 91 in block. First time on the calendar, regular course.
C-89, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $50,000 to the Police Department Capital Outlay Expense Account, same amount to be transferred from the Stabilization Fund. C-90, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $125,000 to the Fire Department Overtime Account, same amount to be transferred from the Fire Department Salary and Wages Account. C-91, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $1,700 to the Conservation Commission Expense Account, same amount to be transferred from the Wetland Fees Receipts Reserved for Appropriations Account.
C-89 through C-91 is taken in block and referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, each communication, therefore regular course on all.
Okay, thank you. Regular course. Just to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means, I didn't see the candidate come in here at all tonight.
No, I do not see
So we're not
him.
going to waste time on it.
No.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Regular course on communication 89 through 91. We'll now move on to petitions 59. If there's no objection, 59, 60, and 61, 19 in block.
59-19, Technor Apex Co., located at 31 Fuller Street, request to amend flammable liquids license from 30,000 gallons to 60,000 gallons. 60-19, Georgia Pacific Consumer Operations LLC for Dixie Consumer Products, located at 149 Hamilton Street, request to amend flammable liquids license from 17,067 gallons to 21,967 gallons. 61-19, Raymond Racine, DPW Director, requests that the City Council amend the city ordinances to reclassify the position of Water Specialist into the position Code Enforcer and change the salary grade from an S5 to an S7.
Thank you. 59-19 through 61-19 is referred to the Chairman of Legal Affairs, and if you can refer to each one individually, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Petition 59-19, regular course, with a referral to the Director of the Board of Health and the Fire Chief. Petition 60-19, also regular course, with a referral to the Director of the Board of Health and the Fire Chief. Petition 61-19, regular course.
Thank you. 59-19 has been given regular course with referral to the Fire Chief and the Board of Health Director. 60-19, again referred to the Health Department Director and Fire Chief, regular course, and regular course on 61-19. Thank you. Council Frida?
Mr. Chairman, to the Chairman, Mr. President, to the Chairman.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to need public hearings on all three.
Right, but
As
can
well.
we just ask Ray to give us a job description for a code enforcer? I mean, I absolutely agree with him. MS4 permitting is going to be crazy, but.
He gave us, why don't
Right,
I
the
ask him for
differences
more
in the two.
detailed, I'll ask him for more detailed
Yeah,
recommendations.
just a
than what he
comparison of the
provided.
specialist and the enforcer.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right. Good check. 59-19, we're going to establish a hearing.
Yes. Public hearings, we could ask for June 24th, 2019 at 6:35 PM.
Thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? Good, thank you. We'll now move on to 60-19.
Again, if we could ask for a public hearing for June 24th, 2019 at 6:40 PM.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? I vote of 9-0. Thank you. All set?
6119, I think we need a public hearing as well.
Yeah, we're going to just wait until we get more information back to set that one.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
great. We now have matters before the City Council, beginning with the financial report. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We began the fiscal year on July 1, 2018, with $15,113,865 in the stabilization account. During the course of the fiscal year, we had additions of $4,796,264, and we appropriated from this account to date, or will appropriate potentially $5,201,295, leaving a balance of $14,708,834, plus a net amount unused of $575,000 from a grant that wasn't ultimately processed. That's the financial report. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Thank you. You have the floor to the council for any questions or comments. Council Frida?
I can wait till the end if you prefer. You know, my question's going to be.
Well, we're on it. Go right now.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
All right. What's our status on the Schedule A submission?
I guess we're getting close. My understanding is the books have been reconciled. I also understand that, you know, as it's been painfully pointed out, I suppose, that the Division of Local Services won't have a clog of requests for certification. So I think we're very close to having free cash certified.
Thank you. Council Frida?
I think a bigger part of the problem is not looking at what Mr. Kanaki has said, because it's not separated on city and school. I mean, it's our local aid's being held up, I'm sure. I mean, has anybody gotten a notification on that? Do we know anything for sure? As a council, have we been told that local aid is held up? Do you know
Mr.
that it
Chairman, do you
is?
know
Does
anything?
the
Well,
finance committee know?
Mr. Stassen and I speak from time to time, and Mr. Stassen.
This isn't about the schools, this is about the city.
Yeah, I understand. But you're talking about local aid, the cherry sheet.
local
Yeah.
aid
Oh,
on the
well.
whole, not just the,
Yeah, I know,
schools
but-
are paid out of our local aid.
Yeah, a big portion of it, obviously. And, you know, those are revenue accounts. The comptroller has advised that they can go ahead and appropriate from those accounts, that there's plenty of cash flow in the city. And when Division of Local Services approves free cash or certifies free cash, the money will be here.
Point of order, I had a direct conversation with the superintendent, and the comment made was she's all set. So,
As long as we have enough of a cash flow, we're gonna be all set. There's not gonna be,
The comptroller assured me that that's the case.
I'm sure the cash flow's there, but the disturbing part is this happened to, you, Mr. President, you would remember this, 2015. If you look at old Councilor Dombrowski, Councilor Nichol was furious, and Councilor Savatelli, to his credit, as the finance chair, was relentless in trying to get information out of the comptroller. The biggest question is why? I mean, the last time there was question about the schools. Why are we having an issue now?
well, I'm just gonna, as the president of the council, I just want to inform you on that question. I appreciate the question, I understand it, I support it. There's some HIPAA laws that are falling into place right now, we can't get into the answer for why. What I would suggest you do is sit
HIPAA
down.
laws?
What I would suggest you do is sit down with the comptroller directly, and he'll be able to fill you in why.
Well, I
Okay?
think we need to get some, I think as a council, some out of courtesy, we ought to be getting some information.
Well, the finance chair, that's his job, so he's been working on it. We've been talking on a daily basis on this, just to let you know.
And I've talked to the state a couple times. I mean, this isn't new, or a small handful of communities. This isn't new this year. I mean, this is, if there's a problem every year, whose fault is it? Where's the problem lie? I mean, there is one. I mean, we can skirt the issue and we can, you know, do it, but it's not fair to department heads, not fair to anybody.
Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, thank you. We're going to move right into Communication 68.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I would like to, at some point this evening, talk about the budget as well,
Yes,
mechanically.
yeah.
So I have discussed that with the mayor. We will have it for our next meeting.
Right.
Our first meeting in June. Is my intention to conduct, for the Finance Subcommittee to conduct its hearings on the budget on June 11th and June 12th. And use the same protocol that we used last year, where the budget overview would be given on the 11th by the mayor and the comptroller, followed by the library, police department, and fire department that evening. And then on the following evening, the 12th, Department of Public Works and the school department.
Okay. Is Public Works also covering water as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the hearings? Council Frida?
Do we expect to have the Schedule A clarified before the budget?
As you know, I have no control over that.
I agree.
Okay.
But
Right.
I have had several conversations with the comptroller. I'm doing my best with a difficult situation. I don't believe that we're going to have any problem. I mean, look at, there's nothing wrong with having money sooner than later, right? As a general proposition, it usually works well that way. But fortunately, the city has the cash flow. Nothing's in danger. Budget's not in danger. The local aid's not in danger. Our schools aren't in danger. I believe, based on what I've been told, that it is reasonable to believe that by the 10th, that free cash will be certified.
through the
I'm
chair.
not, but I'm not the Division of Local Services,
Right.
and I'm not the comptroller, and I'm not the treasurer.
I've been given the same information as well. Council Frida?
Through the chair, I'm not suggesting you can control the controller at all. I think we all know the controller. But I don't think it's fair for us to be working on a budget not knowing how much free cash we have. I mean, if it's excessive, maybe it's time to look at us cutting the taxes, give people a relief. We have no clue how much money we have left over that people overpaid or overlay accounts or however. Until we see that, how could we even start talking about a budget if we don't know how much money is left over? I mean, there's a connection to all of it. It's not a separate Schedule A over here and Division of Local Services, and over here we got a budget. I mean, it kind of goes together.
Councilor Frida, you're in this building as often as I am, which is almost daily. Have you had a chance to sit down with the mayor on this in his office?
I understand it completely. I have, no.
All right. Well, I think
but
he'll
the-
fill you in on some things that we can't
get a
discuss
question,
on the
can't get
floor.
an answer.
There may be some things discussed that cannot be discussed on the floor with you.
Then we should have an executive session.
It's possible.
Mr.
Counselor,
President,
yeah.
I'll just say this with respect to the budget. I think it is absolutely responsible and appropriate to conduct those hearings on that week and at that time. We don't obviously have the budget yet, but I'm told we will have it for the next meeting. If we have our subcommittee hearings on the 11th and the 12th, then we'll be in a position to discuss the budget as a council at the following meeting, which is the second meeting in June, the 24th. There's no additional time.
Right.
So, you know, free cash is a piece of all of this, but obviously the budget is a much larger issue. So we need to, it's responsible for us to have those hearings, have those discussions, and, you know, that's what we're going to do.
And we do appreciate the fact that the school committee has already submitted their budget through the superintendent.
Yes, we
to
do.
us. So
Absolutely.
we've got a lot of reading to do to begin with. Okay? Any other comments on financials? Go ahead.
Yep, just a really quick one. I agree that, the budget is the most important piece, but really, we can't evaluate the budget. I think I said this at the last meeting, without the context and understanding of what free cash is. I mean, that's a big, big part of the conversation. It's a big part of the context that we're going to be operating in. So I just want to throw that out there.
Just for the
Excuse me, I'm not done. Excuse me, I have the floor.
Counselor, go through the chair, please.
Through the chair.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
believe I do have the floor.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
thank you.
I thought you were finished.
Thank you. I also do want to reiterate the point that was made during the public forum that over $20 million of school department of local aid to the school department, Chapter 70 money, is being withheld by the state. There's a cost to that. There's a cost to that. And the city, we are very lucky. We're in great financial shape. There is, the city's got cash flow to cover the school department bills. But the question is this any way to run a city? The bottom line. And we'll have this conversation, and I'm sure we'll continue to have the conversation about, free cash. This isn't an anomaly. This year is later than usual, and I understand that whatever the extenuating circumstances are. But in past years, we don't get free cash certified until April, March, very, very late in the year. So this year is an anomaly. It's later than usual, but consistently in the past, it's been late, and that's just my comment.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to respond.
Counselor Bonanza, go ahead.
All right, so just
All
for
right,
the,
let's hold off for 1 second. The intent right now is to share the financial report and to establish the meeting so we can mark our calendars with busy schedules coming ahead. Not to get into serious debate on administrative policy that we have no control over, nor share the frustration that we each have as individuals while we don't have that report in front of us at this point. We're going to let Councilor Bonanza, as the chairman, have one more comment, then we're going to move to the next item, which is Communication 68. Thank you.
if we look at what historically has happened with free cash, last year we had approximately $9.5 million that was certified. Over $2 million, I think close to $2.2 million of that was returned to the water and sewer departments, as we historically do. That's what they use for their capital projects. We paid back stabilization. Right now, the tab to stabilization is $5.2 million. Assuming that we go in accordance with what our historical practice has been, that totals $7.4 million. That would leave roughly $2.1 million left over from free cash that is always used for capital projects. It's a very small fraction of the total budget. To tell the public that there's some kind of budgetary crisis that develops because we don't have the free cash certification is not a service, in my opinion, to anybody. So I just want to make those facts very plain and clear.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to
Mr.
Communication
President, can I just make
68.
one? Well, I think it has to be
You can
clarified.
bring it up under old business. Right now, we're going to move through the calendar. We've got a lot of work to do. Communication 68, Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-68, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $20,400 to the ITTF expense account, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This was before us and was ultimately denied, reconsidered, and given further time. There was an explanation provided the last time relative to this building blocks software, which allows the city to use GIS and other types of software objectives to coordinate calls and other sorts of mapping issues that relate to various addresses and properties within the city. It would be my, personally, I would suggest approving C-68, and I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you. I yield the floor to the clerk.
I would agree with
Third
approving.
member.
I also agree.
Mr. Chairman, please requalify.
Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-68.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 68. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair to the finance chair. So this is a request for $20,400 from the ITTF expense account. And in the most recent Munis report that's dated 5/28, which is today, there is $167,479 left from ITTF expense prior year. In the line above, there's another $74,000 left in the Information Technology Committee. So I guess my question is this $240,000+ earmarked for something else?
Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Well, if it's not, I have no idea.
Okay.
But obviously, if there's an appropriation comes down, I haven't been apprised that there's any other appropriation coming to us
Right.
from those funds. It's possible, of course, but it would be pure speculation on my part. I don't know. So if those funds aren't used, they'll be closed out.
Right.
And they'll end up in next fiscal year's free cash. But I don't know.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Can you ask that question through the chair to the finance chair? I read through Mr. Mitchell's explanation of the proposed software. It's sounds like a wonderful package. The $20,000 sounds like it's, a good value, would do a lot of good things for the city. But would you ask the question why we're taking money out of stabilization when we have that $240,000 balance
I will
in the
do that.
ITTF accounts?
I'll ask the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation read to grant Communication 68, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 68 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $20,400 be appropriated to the ITTF expense account, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund, move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard their recommendation read. Are there any comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 68, the order has been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Communication 79. Are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-79, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the attached loan order for $11,294,000 be adopted for finance of an aeration basin and secondary clarifier upgrade project. We had a public hearing that was continued on this earlier this evening. As a result, it would be my recommendation, I'd ask you to check with my committee members to ask for further time on C-79.
Madam Clerk?
Agreed.
I also
Counselor?
agree.
Please requalify.
Yes, Mr. President, unanimous recommendation on C-79 is further time.
Thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read for further time on Communication 79. Are there any comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded to Communication 79. Thank you. We now move on to Communication 80. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, C-80, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor. Relative to the appropriation of $930,175 be made to the school transportation expenses, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This is, I believe, this is money I believe we've received from Medicaid reimbursement that we typically do reappropriate to the school department for this purpose. It would be my predilection to grant C-80, Mr. President. I'd ask you to check with members of my
I
committee.
yield the floor to the clerk.
I agree.
Third
I
member?
also agree.
Please requalify.
Unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-80.
Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 80. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Frida.
Just real quickly, this is, it is Medicaid reimbursement, and it does go to the chief executive officer of the city. And we've been fortunate for 26 years, the mayor has turned the money over to the school department. Doesn't have to, but he does.
Right.
So-
Thank you. Good point. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of Communication 80, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed by a vote of 9-0, Communication 80 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $930,175 be made to the school transportation expense account, same to be transferred from stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to Communication 81. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-81, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $24,000 to the Police Department overtime account, same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account, regarding patrolmen and superior officers' wage agreement settlement. There was an interpretation in the contract, and it was resolved, negotiated and resolved, and this amount of money is necessary to fund the settlement on how the overtime would be paid. It would be my position to grant C-81, and I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Clerk?
I agree.
Third member?
I also agree.
Please requalify.
The unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-81.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 81. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 81 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $24,000 be appropriated to the Police Department overtime account, same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 82. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-82, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $195,000 to the Police Department salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. This is to fund the union contract that was recently entered into between the city and the union. We've been provided some information relative, a memorandum of the agreement, which essentially raises retroactive to fiscal July 2018 pay by 2.5% per year, and then in the last year, 2020, 3%. Be my position to grant C-82, Mr. President. Ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor to Madam Clerk.
I agree.
Third member.
I also agree.
Please requalify.
Mr. President, unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-82.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 82. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 82 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $195,000 be made to the Police Department salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll now move on to Communication 83. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-83, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $6,000 to the City Council expense account, same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. This relates to advertising expenses. We've had quite a bit of those this year. I don't know who's responsible for that, but a lot of updates to our code. So it's a good purpose, but it's been an expensive year. So it'd be my position to grant C-83. I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Clerk?
Agreed.
Third member?
I also agree.
Please requalify.
Mr. President, unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-83.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read to grant Communication 83. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the communication has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordered that the sum of $6,000 be appropriated to the City Council expense account, same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 83, the order has been adopted. Thank you. We now move on to Communication 84. Is the chairman ready to report?
C-84, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $119,023 to the various general fund salary and wages appropriation accounts as listed, same amount to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. So the mayor sent us a letter dated May 8th, breaking down each department and what it would cost to implement the new contract. Would you like me to read them, Mr. President?
If you desire. Does anybody need them read? No. You want them read?
No, can I ask a question?
Ready for a question?
That's fine.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Through the chair, I don't have a copy of that letter, and I was about to ask because I was the person who asked for the detail.
Did that just stay with finance?
It was part of the package that, no?
Did we
It was
get a
part-
copy
Should
of
have
it
been
in
part of the
finance?
package.
I didn't get any
Tonight.
break.
We
did you get
can,
any
we'll get you,
breakdowns?
Council, we'll get you another copy if you don't have your finger on it, but everyone did get a copy at one point,
No.
according to the clerk.
Well, all I have is the C-84, the request. I don't have any detail.
Do we all get detail? Yeah. We'll get you a copy.
Thank
Would
you.
you like one right now?
I would. Yep.
If you can let her have the original one, so you don't have to go make a copy.
Thank you.
That'd be fine, sure. We just get it back
No.
afterwards. Files last forever. Does anyone else have one at their fingertips?
I'm checking to see if I have a second.
I'm asking for the breakdown.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, through the chair, I had asked for breakdowns for C-84 through 87, through 88, actually. We did get C-88 from the fire chief, but I didn't get anything else.
Is that the one with all the blocks?
Is this what you need?
And then you have one that is a packet of 3.
No.
We'll pause and we'll come up with it right now
Thank
for
you.
you.
Yep, no, I didn't get that.
If you'd like, you can go through my binder. There is one in here. I don't want to do that to you. See if you can pull one out. Pull one
I
out.
don't have it. Gail, you don't have it, right? Okay. If you don't have it, then I feel like I don't. I know I don't. You got the breakdown, Mark? Maybe you want to read it.
What's that?
If you have the breakdown, maybe you want to read it. That might be faster.
I'll read it. All right, here we go.
Here goes Mark, he's going to read it. Okay.
Assessor's office, $5,799. So this is the amount of money to implement, yeah,
Yep, no.
Do you have it?
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
No, I have the list.
Yeah.
That makes up the 119,000. But
Right.
what I had asked for was a breakdown by department, because some of the departments are, it's in the minutes.
That's fine.
Yep.
That's fine.
So you don't have any kind of breakdown, I guess is the
Well,
question.
they are broken down by department, aren't they?
No, but I had asked for more detail about position, so that we know.
Well, that detail, I guess, is in those step raises that John so painfully read. That's the detail.
Right.
That's how these numbers were arrived at. It's 3%, the upgrade is 3% over 3 years, 3, 3, and 3.
That's where it's from.
Exactly, but for which unions? Is this the middle managers union? Is this just the city hall employees union? I mean, I don't know which.
These are, well, I believe that these are all non-union employees. It does list police and fire, but those may be people working in police and fire that are non-union.
Could be a clerk.
But it's collective bargaining in the expense account, so
That's where they're taking the money from.
even though it wasn't collective bargained?
Correct.
I'm even more confused. Through the chair to the finance chair?
Sure.
No, I had asked at the last meeting for more detail on this because I was confused about which unions and which positions. I was just trying to get.
None of these, from assessors, building inspector, city clerk, none of these monies are union money.
Okay.
This is all money that is going to implement that new contract that, like I said, John, or the new ordinance that John read during the hearing.
And we can take that out of the collective bargaining expense account line item?
If we vote for that, sure. Yeah, if we vote for it. That was sent down to us. That's what it's for.
Through the chair again to the finance
Sure.
chair, the way that it's requested indicated to me that these were union wages that were collective bargained.
I understand your
Okay.
confusion. I think maybe historically, what's happened here is the city has always given the non-union employees raises that are somewhat similar to what the unions gained during their collective bargaining. So, for example, we just saw that the police got, I think it was 2.5%, and 3%. I think most of the union contracts are in that range. Obviously, there are other things besides the wages. There's stipends, shift differentials, there's uniform allowances that the non-union employees don't get.
Sure.
And in essence, what ends up happening is mayor, comptroller, whoever decides together as to what those non-union gains are going to be via that ordinance that is up for discussion, implements this, and they took it out of the collective bargaining expense account. Is it strictly collective bargaining? No, they're not represented by unions, but that's what they're proposing to take the money to implement this new ordinance out of.
Through the chair to the finance chair, can we get that spelled out in more detail from the comptroller? Or from the mayor's office, perhaps, because he's the person that sent down
Well, I'm sure the clerk can ask the comptroller
Sure.
to fulfill your desire for additional information.
Right.
You know, it's just my personal position. I want to go forward with this. These people deserve this money, in my view. You have questions, that's fine. You're entitled to obtain whatever information you want to obtain.
Mr. Chairman, Communication 84, are those the non-union employees?
I believe so. I mean, there's
Okay,
no,
and if it is true,
Yeah.
which I believe it is, this is a practice that has been consistent going back to the early 1980s, and probably before that. My knowledge goes back to the 80s. And what would happen is when everyone was done, you know, whatever that amount happened to be, was a fair and equitable way to deal with the non-employees because they didn't have a union, the non-union employees.
Respectfully to
Sure.
the president, no, I certainly understand that. And I understand that non-union employees are typically given raises that mirror, or I've been told, typically mirror the union contract or the union awards with a little bit more like a 0.5% to account for the stipends and the uniforms and things like that that non-union personnel don't get.
You're right.
I'm just confused because taking non-union pay raises, which I support and I don't have a problem with, if they're in line with what's been awarded to unions, because I can't tell that from what we've received, I don't have a problem with that. I think that that's fair. I think that's equitable. I just am really concerned about taking money out of a collective bargaining expense account to pay non-union employees.
Well,
That's my problem.
I hear your concern. It doesn't concern me. I mean, city reserved money specifically for that purpose, for wage gains, and it's nice that they've appropriated the money to cover those expenses, as opposed to having to take it from someplace else. I guess that's the purpose of reserving the monies. But if you need a more, I mean, it's your prerogative. If you need a more specific explanation of that I can't give you right now, we could ask the comptroller.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, I'm going to pass this down to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, I read that. That's not helpful.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, you have the floor.
Thank you. So through the chair to the city clerk, I would like more information on that. I would like specifically to ask the comptroller and the mayor why non-union personnel pay raises, which are planned for every year in the budget, are coming out of a collective bargaining unit line item in the budget that we approve as collective bargaining money, by the way, when we voted for the budget. Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on the question to pass Communication 84? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just make one more point. I am going to support this when it goes to a vote, but I do want to go on the record as being really concerned about the fact that it's coming out of collective bargaining, and I'm not sure that we want to do that in the future. For this upcoming budget session, we probably want to have a separate line item to pay non-union people out of, to keep things clear.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is
Did we make a recommendation? I forgot.
we're not there yet. I thought we did, and I yield the floor.
I don't think we did.
We didn't.
So
We didn't make it yet?
I am
Okay,
in
sorry about
favor
that.
of granting C-84. Mr. President, I would ask you to check with my committee members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I agree.
Third member,
I also agree.
please requalify.
Mr. President, the unanimous recommendation of finance is to grant C-84.
Okay. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 84. Again, on the floor, are there any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the communication has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, in order that the sum of $119,023 be appropriated to various general fund salary and wages accounts, same to be transferred from the collective bargaining expense account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 85. Are you ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-85, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $5,967 to be made to the wastewater salary and wages account, same amount to be transferred from the wastewater support services expense account. This is, again, and my understanding of this is that, again, is for raises to those workers, and that's where they decided to appropriate the money from, to meet that $5,967 to be in conformity with those new wage numbers. And I would be in favor of granting C-85.
Thank you. I'll yield the floor to the clerk.
I agree.
Third member,
I also agree.
please requalify.
EMS recommendation of finance is to grant C-85.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 85. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, due to a possible conflict of interest, I am going to abstain from this.
Okay, do it in the minutes. Thank you very much for that. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the communication has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $5,967 be appropriated to the wastewater salary and wages account, same amount to be transferred from the wastewater support services expense account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors heard that recommendation read. Are there any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, Communication 85 has been, the order's been adopted. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr abstained on Communication 85. We now move on to Communication 86. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-86, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $7,403 for the Water Department salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the Water Department support services expense account. Similarly, this is the water corollary of what we just did with wastewater. It did occur to me that, you know, if obviously this is money that's being moved from a expense account to a salary account, and that's the reason it's here. If there was ample money in the expense account, it wouldn't be here, they wouldn't need us, which is sort of answers the question with respect to why is the money coming out of the collective bargaining account on C-84. It's the same situation. There's money available in the account, but we have to authorize it. So that's why it's here. I would be in favor of granting C-86.
Thank you. I yield the floor to the clerk.
Agreed.
Third member,
I also agree.
please requalify.
EMS recommendation of finance is to grant C-86.
I yield the floor to Councilor Shalfo Zephyr. You good with this one?
No, I'm actually going to abstain from this as well.
Okay,
Thank
duly
you.
noted, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr is abstaining. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Excuse me. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the communication's been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, order that the sum of $7,403 be appropriated to the Water Department salary and wages account, same to be transferred from the Water Department Support Services Expense Account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the order's been adopted on Communication 86. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 87. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. C-87, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $1,538 to the Gallagher Building Salary and Wages Account, same to be transferred from the Gallagher Building Salary and Wages Account. This is, again, a non-union employee. I believe this is the maintenance person that works both here in City Hall as well as in the Gallagher Building, and this is to bring that person's pay in conformity with the new ordinance. It would be my position to grant C-87. I ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, Madam Clerk,
Agreed.
third member.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, please requalify.
Unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-87.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 87. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, Communication 87 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, I order that the sum of $1,538 be appropriated to the Gallagher Building Salary and Wages Account, same amount to be transferred from the Gallagher Building Salary and Wages Account. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard the recommendation read to move for the adoption of the order on Communication 87. Again, are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to Communication 88. Are you ready to report?
Yes, C-88, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, relative to the appropriation of $100,000 to the Fire Department overtime account, same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. We have received some backup on this from the fire chief in a letter dated May 24th, 2019 to the mayor. The communications regarding the status of the fire department public safety overtime account. On May 9th, 2019, I had requested an appropriation for overtime to carry the department through the remainder of the fiscal year. After my discussion with the comptroller, we agreed to put through the request to transfer from the stabilization fund in the amount of $100,000, which is in front of you for a second reading. The remainder is a request to transfer from the fire department salary and wages account in the amount of $125,000, which is on the agenda for the first reading. Listed below is a summary of our overtime requirements separate from the normal overtime. And he lists new contract obligations, one firefighter out on job-related injuries, one firefighter out on extended sick leave, earlier fiscal year retirement vacancies. Thank you for your continued support. It will be my position to grant C-88, Mr. President. I'd ask you to check with members of my committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Clerk,
I agree.
third member.
I have a family member that serves in the fire department, so I need to abstain. I have a conflict of interest.
Councilor David Cormier will abstain from this vote. Mr. Chairman, please requalify.
The unanimous recommendation of Finance is to grant C-88.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 88. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, the communication has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
Yes, Mr. President, I order that the sum of $100,000 be transferred to the fire department overtime account, same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. Move for the adoption of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard that recommendation read. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 8-0, Communication 88 has been adopted. The order. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and your committee as well. We now move on to legal affairs. We have Communication 76. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. If there's no objection, I'd take 76, Communication 77, and Communication 78 in block.
Any objection on the floor? Go for it.
Communication 76, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the following ordinance change be adopted. Amend Chapter 16, Personnel, Section 16-13, Vacations of the Leominster Revised Ordinances by deleting Section 8 and replacing it with the following Section 8, effective January 1st, 2019. Communication 77, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the following ordinance change be adopted. Amend Chapter 16, Personnel, Section 16-30, Compensation Grades, by inserting therein the following sections A11, A12, and A13. Communication 78, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the following ordinance change be adopted, amend Chapter 16 Personnel, Section 16-33, longevity on regular compensation of the Leominster Revised Ordinance by deleting Section A1 and replacing it with Section A1 as follows, effective July 1st, 2018. We had public hearing earlier this evening on all three communications. Legal Affairs voted to keep the public hearing open. There were half a dozen questions raised that I will go over with the clerk at the conclusion of this hearing. We'll get those questions answered, and we'll ask either the mayor or the personnel director to come down, just explain the whys. I think we all have an idea of the reasons for these changes, but just the specific justifications for the taxpayers. So the recommendation on communication 76, 77, and 78 is further time. We're also going to need to establish public hearings for all three at the next, so we can take that vote as well.
We're not going to take that vote tonight. We're going to wait till I take a look at what's happening with finance, and then it will be then we'll get it out through social media and also publicize it at the next meeting.
That's fair
For the
enough.
next meeting on the agenda.
Fair enough, Mr.
Okay?
President.
Okay.
All right, good. All set?
All set.
Thank you. Council, sir, the recommendation read for communications 76, 77, and 78 to be taken in block. Given further time, we will be reestablishing the continuation of the three hearings, and we will let everyone know when the appropriate time is there. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Cormier.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I meant to mention this at the public hearing on C-76. This particular section was last amended on January 22nd, 2007. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It just adds some language in case you have 5 or more weeks, which was never explained in the current ordinance. So I do think that is pretty cut and dry. But once again, I just want to make it clear that we need some clarity on C-78 and that last sentence there that is proposed, because it doesn't make any sense to me. So other than that, I think everything is pretty cut and dry, to me anyway.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, the recommendation for 76, 7, and 8 in block. Further time. All those in favor, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, in block, they've been given further time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now move on to 58-19. Are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Petition 58-19.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, would you just note that I was opposed to further time on those?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, so 8-1. I apologize for that. Okay, 58-19, Mr. Chairman.
Petition 58-19, Michelle Powell and 10 registered voters declare and accept Cleveland Street as a street in the city of Leominster. We did get a communication back from the Department of Public Works. If I could just have a moment to find it. There's a letter dated May 15th, 2019 to the city clerk referencing petition 58-19. Dear Caitlin, the Leominster Department of Public Works has reviewed this request and offers the following comments. The applicant needs to submit a plan and a deed description of what is being asked to be accepted. A couple of questions need answers. Who owns Cleveland Street? Do the applicants have the ability to transfer the fee or an easement? Please let us know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Raymond Racine. We also asked for a referral from the planning director, which I don't believe we've received yet.
It's planned to go on their first June meeting.
Okay. And I don't know if I could, Councilor Bedanza, who headed up the Committee on Public Streets, if you have any insight on this particular Cleveland Street.
It wasn't a street that was, I mean, there's a lot of streets out there. that aren't accepted. It wasn't one that was on our radar or discussed. I think obviously the director raises some very valid questions. I don't think anybody really knows who owns the fee in the road. So it's something that is going to require some research and some effort. It may be that that's another street that the city may have to consider taking by eminent domain if a title can't be established with anybody. I have discussions that I've had with the mayor as he's committed to addressing this problem. It's going to take a long time to get it all straightened out, but he's instructed the city solicitor's office to begin working on these streets one by one.
Councilor Frida?
I think that maybe the clerk, and I could be wrong, if she has a chance to look back, I think Councilor Nichol worked on this for a long time, and I think he had trouble coming up with some of the answers. But there might be something in an old file regarding Cleveland Street. I'm sure he was involved in that.
I started looking back actually about that, and there's nothing within, I think, that at least the past 30 years that was evident. But it is a street that has problems with ownership, and I think the question was arising, and it kind of just went to the wayside because of that.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Cormier?
we're going to come up with a recommendation first.
Well, my recommendation is going to be further time pending the referral from the planning board.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
I agree.
Third member,
I'm okay with that.
please requalify.
Unanimous recommendation of legal affairs is further time.
Thank you. Councilor Cormier, would you like the floor?
Yeah, well, I think both of us do. It's her ward, but I do have a couple of thoughts. I think,
Let me go to the ward council
Yeah,
first.
if you could,
Councilor Pauline
please.
Cormier, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did meet with the neighbors. We had a meeting over there. They are very active. They want to see this move forward. They are very cooperative. We were waiting to hear from the DPW and the engineer. And I know it was their position, and I went through with the, to try to research back to find ownership. And it's a jumble. That whole area is a jumble over there, and these parcels, they were just parceled out. So we are working on that. I'm working with the neighborhood right now. So we, as I said, we were waiting for the engineer to come and give an idea. These are neighbors who really want to work towards getting it accepted. They're willing to step up and work with the city to get the minimum done to get it into the process of being accepted.
Excellent.
So I think with further time, if we can get the engineer over there to give them an idea of what the minimum would have to do, what they would have to do themselves,
Right.
to get them on the accepted list, or at least in the process of getting it done.
Okay.
So that's all that they're looking to do at this point. They know it's going to take some time, but we want to get the ball rolling to get them on the list. And as I said, they're very active. They're willing to get involved themselves. So hopefully, working with them, we can take the next step with this.
Excellent work. Councilor David Cormier?
yeah, I took a ride over there as well, and it seems to be, was evident that there was some drainage issues. Obviously, there was no lack of rain this spring when I was over there. I would encourage the neighbors to be at the planning board meeting. Hopefully, they can dig through all their files and tell a little bit of the story, as to, the history as to what went on. I don't think there's anything that states that this was ever to be a private street. I know we have some of those out there that are very clear that they will always be private. But, I think in the end, this might be one of those that is just going to have to be taken eminent domain. It's just going to be on the list as one of those streets that, the corner office is going to have to instruct when he feels the time is right, when this one is in its proper order. I'm sure that he's got some that are more demanding than others at this point. But at some point, this is just going to have to be taken eminent domain. You have to do legal work and figure out, what they have to do to take it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Ottinger?
To the ward chair, if I could, or ward councilor, if I could. There are 3 streets that are very similar in that same area. Are all three street neighbors working together to do this, or is it just going to be one street at a time?
If I may,
Please.
I can tell you that when I met with the Cleveland Street individuals, they said that they've been in discussions with the other neighbors on the adjoining streets and right next door, and they all have had the same problem, the same
Right.
issue. I think the Cleveland Street residents are taking it, they're starting the process. And I think shortly after we start the process and get the ball rolling with Cleveland Street, I think that'll pave the way and make it a little bit easier for the other streets to do the same thing. So I think they're all in support in that entire neighborhood, but I think Cleveland Street is taking the ball and running with it right now. But I think you're absolutely right. In short order, once they get the process going, that those other streets will be involved as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council Odenger, you're all set?
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the floor? If not, the recommendation on 58-19 is for further time. All those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been granted. Thank you. We now move on to Ways and Means and Veterans Affairs. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. We had a interview scheduled for Nathan Fontaine this evening, but I don't believe he came.
No.
I'm hoping that we can reach out to him again, because certainly what he wants to do for the city, be a member of the diver unit, the Office of Emergency Management would be,
Right.
Quite worthy. So that's that. Also, we have a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Jeffrey B.
If I could
O'Neill.
take a step back for
Oh,
1 second.
Sure.
I realize the situation we're in with these volunteers with emergency management. Some of them are coming from out of town, and we are having a little bit of a glitch. So what I'm going to do, with your permission, I'm going to contact the director myself and ask if they can't make it, if at least the director can come, or someone representing emergency management to speak on their behalf.
Right, that's a good idea,
Okay.
because I probably would have, said, let's go forward with this. I mean,
Right,
his
right.
resume is, why would you not want somebody to be on the
Right.
diver unit? So, yeah, if we did have a representative from OEM, we could have moved forward on that tonight.
Okay?
So I agree.
All right. Thank you. You have Jeff O'Neill before you?
I do. Measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Jeffrey B. O'Neill to the Recreation Commission, term to expire April 15th, 2022. This was given regular course. The last meeting, I don't have any information that would constitute not reappointing Mr. O'Neill, so my recommendation would be to do so, and I'll ask you to
Okay, if
poll
we
my
can take a
committee.
step back to Mr. Fontaine, you want to give him further time?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, further time.
Okay, all right. Council, sir, the recommendation read for further time on Mr. Fontaine. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time on Mr. Fontaine. Thank you. Mr. O'Neill's before you.
And I am recommending that we reappoint Mr. O'Neill, and I'm asking you to poll my committee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Councilor Frida?
I agree.
Thank you. Councilor Dombrowski, if they're
I
a
agree.
member?
I agree.
Thank you. Council, please qualify.
We have unanimous recommendation to reappoint Jeffrey B. O'Neill to the Recreation Commission.
Thank you. Councilors heard their recommendation read for confirmation on Mr. O'Neill. Are there any questions or comments on the floor? If I may, this is Mr. Recreation. Isn't he amazing? I mean, we're just so happy he's willing to stay on a little bit longer. It's great. It's awesome. So we deeply appreciate his service. This will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Odenger.
Yay.
Councilor Bonanza.
Yay.
Councilor Feckley.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I, Shepard records yea by a vote of 9-0. Mr. O'Neill again is reappointed to the Conservation Commission until 4/15/2060. We'll tell him, 2022. Okay, we'll now move on to Communication 70.
Yes, Mr. President, we could actually do Communication 70 through Communication 73 in block. I just have very brief comments on each one.
If there's no objection, take it, go ahead.
Okay. C70, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, a measure approving an exemption under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, conflict of interest of Stephanie Martin as a leisure head counselor. Communication 71, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, a measure approving an exemption under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, conflict of interest of Rebecca Baker Wari as a leisure head counselor. So both Ms. Martin and Ms. Baker Wari will be working for the Recreation Department during the summer. C-72, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, a measure approving an exemption under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, conflict of interest of Mary Newton as a part-time clerk for the Department of Veteran Services. Ms. Newton is now employed at the school department, but she will no longer be employed at the end of the school year, and she could continue on as the part-time clerk for the Veteran Services. C-73, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, a measure approving an exemption under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, conflict of interest of counsel to the Leominster Public Schools. So this is similar to what we did for our legal counsel. As counsel for the schools, he's prohibited from appearing before any city board or committee on behalf of his client, of another client. Even though that wouldn't be a practical problem for him, it does pose a problem for the colleagues in his firm, which may seek to appear before other city boards and committees on other matters. So, Mr. President, my recommendation would be to approve these exemptions, C-70 through and including C-73, and I'd ask you to poll my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Clerk?
I agree.
Third member?
I agree.
Please requalify.
We have a unanimous recommendation to approve the exemptions C-70, C-71, C-72, and C-73.
Thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant Communications 70 through 73 in block. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Bonanza.
I think we should, for the record, should note for the public that relative to C-73, that the special counsel or special municipal employee status is being granted to the school committee's attorney, which is Merrick O'Connell, which is a large firm in Worcester, just so people know. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing.
Right.
Larger firms like this tend to have practices that are diverse, and this allows them to both represent the school committee and then in certain circumstances represent other people before boards or commissions in Leominster that aren't related directly to their work.
Right.
That affects their school committee practice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation to grant in block C-70 through C-73, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, they've been granted. Thank you. We now move on to 57-19. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. 5719 Best Buy Stores LP, renew the secondhand dealer's license for Best Buy Stores LP number 1433, located at 33 Orchard Hill Park Drive. This was given regular course at the last meeting, and we do have all of the recommendations and referrals. So my recommendation would be to approve the secondhand dealer's license.
Thank you. I'll
Now
yield
I
the
should
floor
poll
to
my
Madam
committee.
Clerk. Third member?
I agree.
Thank you. Please requalify.
We have a unanimous recommendation to renew the secondhand dealer's license for Best Buy Stores located at 33 Orchard Hill Park Drive.
Thank you. Councilors heard the recommendation read to grant 57-19. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 57-19 has been granted. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee, as well.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to city property. We have Communication 74. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President, thank you. On Communication 74, C-74, I respectfully request the council vote to grant the attached petition to transfer property to the Recreation Commission. And it says that he's petitioning the city council to transfer to the care, custody, and control of the parcel of land located at 20 Bassett Street containing 15.5 acres, shown on the assessor's map 328 as parcel 60, and acquired by foreclosure and tax lien case recorded in the Worcester North Registry of Deeds in Book 535, page 364 to 365, from the tax custodian for the tax title purpose to the Recreation Commission for active recreational purposes under the provisions of General Law, Chapter 45, Section 14, and to further dedicate that said parcel of land in perpetuity for the foregoing uses. And we have a letter from the president of the Leominster Lassie League, indicating support. We have a letter from the Conservation Commission, conservation agent, supporting this, you know, and if you look at the map on the land, there's only one other piece of land up there, and that's a league field, so I think we should grant this petition. Recommendation is to grant. But,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Okay, can I go to the committee?
Please.
Thank you. Councilor Bonanza, the clerk.
I'm in favor.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, third member.
Yeah, through the chair to the chairman of city property. I just have a question because we don't have anything from the rec commission. It's 15 and a half acres that's proposed being transferred to the rec commission's purview and management. So it's unfortunate that we didn't refer to the rec commission at the last meeting. That's just an oversight. I wish I had thought of that last time. But I'd like to get a comment from the rec commission, specifically Ms. Sumner, and the rest of the commission to make sure that they're on board with this.
Okay,
So I would ask for further time.
I would agree.
You have reconsideration on that?
Reconsideration for further time.
Okay, I'll yield the floor to the second member.
If the other two members want further time, so be it.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, councilors heard the recommendation read for further time on Communication 74. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm in full support of this. I think it should be under the jurisdiction of the Rec Commission. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, in my time here on the council, I've had a dealing with a piece of property in which there was a portion of property that was turned over to the Conservation Commission, and a piece of it was turned over to the Conservation Commission in error, and we were trying to get that portion discontinued. And the last time I checked, nothing had happened with this. It was a petition actually that came before this council. Last time I checked, nothing had happened with it, and in order to get something discontinued as a Conservation Commission use, it's supposed to go through it takes like an act of the legislature. So I'm just curious as to how and why we can just take a vote of this city council to put this from the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission to the jurisdiction of the Rec Commission, because the last I knew, that takes an act of the legislature to do that.
I may be mistaken, but we're not transferring it from the Conservation Commission. We're transferring it from the city to the Recreation Department.
But that's who it's, through the chair,
Go ahead.
that's whose jurisdiction I believe it's under right now, though.
Yeah.
It is under the city, but under the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction
I'm going to
right
yield the
now.
floor to the clerk of city property for comment.
The confusion may lie in the difference between the property being within the jurisdiction of our Conservation Commission versus being conservation restricted. If there's a conservation restriction that involves the state, you need the legislature in order to undo it. I don't believe there's any conservation restriction on this land. It's simply in the Conservation Commission jurisdiction. I think
I'll
that's
qualify that for you. That's exactly how it is.
You know, if I may, the letter that states that.
Councilor
you know,
Bonanza, you all set?
Yep.
Okay, Councilor Oettinger, go
I
ahead.
would say, the letter from the Conservation Commission states that they became aware of the land, and after deed research and consult with KP Law, no restriction was found.
Oh,
Correct.
Okay, so.
Okay, that's it. All right.
Okay.
So, if the council would like clarification, I've been involved with this for a long time. If not, if you still want to ask questions, that's fine. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr, you had your hand up.
Yep. So if we give it further time, then it would be helpful to refer to the Recreation Department and Commission, certainly. And then would it be appropriate just to send a quick email to Brian Riley and say, this is what is proposed, is it okay to do it? There are no conservation restrictions.
I don't want to spend the money.
I don't know, I appreciate that. I don't know if we really need to. I think Recreation Commission could probably answer the questions we have, or you have. If they can't, then we certainly can go to Copeland and Page. We're just trying to save money on that,
Sure.
that's all. Sometimes a quick question is $750 to $1,000. All right, are you okay with that, Counselor?
You know, honestly, I'd like to get Brian Riley's opinion, but if the majority of the council doesn't want to spend the money, I guess I'll
Okay.
go along with
If the
that.
committee asks for it, or if you want to put a vote to the council at one point during this discussion, you can too.
Okay.
All right? Okay, I want to go back to the committee. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr has a consideration being a committee member regarding a request.
Okay, I guess the recommendation would be further time with a referral to the Recreation Commission.
Okay?
Would that be,
Do you want to refer to Copeland and Page as well?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
But I'll defer to the other members.
Okay, Councilor Bonanza?
I don't think it's necessary either.
Okay, all right,
That's what, I mean, KP in their letter is saying
They said.
that it's not
Right.
restricted.
okay. So your recommendation from the committee is what?
Further time with the
Further
referral
time.
to the Recreation Commission, Recreation Department.
Okay, so you want their recommendation
Yes.
to come forth? Okay,
Yes.
good. Do we know when the next time they're meeting, Madam Clerk? Not sure on that. I don't think it's time sensitive at this point, you know, so we can get it right when it's time to make that recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, councilors have the recommendation read for further time. Again, are there any comments or questions on the floor? Councilor Frida?
Just for the record, I'd like to have the letters read into the record. I mean, the letters of recommendation, referrals that come back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
We can
Well,
do
we're
it
just
now or the
further
next
time tonight. You want to just hold on to it till the next time?
sure.
Okay, all right. That's a good point. Anything else, Councilor Frida?
I don't know that I disagree with having just a quick opinion from Brian Riley, only because, and Councilor Cormier could probably say the same. For 16 years, I represented that area, and it always seemed to be some controversy. So whether that's changed or not, you know, maybe the present council can clear that up, but I don't think it would hurt to get a clear legal opinion.
Councilor Cormier, thank you. Anything else? Thank you. Councilor Cormier?
You know, the last thing I want to do is open up a can of worms, because I think if it was under the jurisdiction of the conservation, you know, whatever, out in, with the legislature has to get involved in, I don't know what would happen, but it might open up a can of worms. But, you know, it talks about here, the commission feels that it's not under a restriction. They feel that. So, you know, like I said, you know, if I'm going to vote on something and I have to own a vote, then I want to know what I'm voting on, and I want to know that I have the authority to vote on what I'm voting on. And I've been through this with a constituent already that has an issue with conservation land, and unfortunately, theirs already has a restriction on it. And last I knew, he's in touch with an attorney, and it's not pretty. So I'm not crazy about spending all kinds of money on legal opinions. I think we give more than enough money to Copeland and Page, but I want to feel comfortable on what I'm voting on, really. And I
Okay.
hate to open a can of worms, if there is a can of worms to be opened, but it is what it is.
I'll give you a quick snapshot if you'd like. This was conservation land for a long time, and there's also Audubon land that abuts it. And what happened was, back in the 1980s, late 80s and 90s, when we built the Field of Dreams and built the complex out, we worked hand in hand with the Conservation Commission. There was some wetlands up in the area, there was a pond, and there were some different issues that took place regarding making sure we preserved as much as we could. And at one point, what happened was, the land was always leased through Conservation Commission, and then Recreation had their hands on it for a while, and it went back to Concom. But what's happening, Conservation Commission has to micromanage a youth recreation league, which they really don't want to. They don't have the expertise to. So what happens is the agent will go up there upon request, and, you know, they might be cutting a tree limb that they need to trim, but because it's conservation land, there's some hesitation as to how that actually plays out. So there's a little bit of a confusion on the micromanagement of the complex, and I believe it was in the best interest of the program to actually be working directly with the stakeholder who's in charge of all the different recreational programs in town, including Little League Baseball and football, things like that. So I think that's why they wanted to get it back into the hands of the Recreation Commission to be able to work with them in a more proactive way not to disrespect conservation land, but to just make it manageable how that would actually play out. Council Bonanza?
I should mention there's another layer to this. What's being proposed here is not to transfer the land or alienate the land from the city. It's only a transfer of the land between departments of the city.
Right.
So, the land is being used as Lassie League facility, has been for decades, as far as I know. So
50-plus years.
So the fact that the properties now would be transferred appropriately, in my opinion, from the Conservation Commission to the Recreational Department for management would have no bearing on any conservation. I can't see how that would violate a conservation restriction, because you're not alienating the land from the city. The city still owns the land. And if it's determined after all of this that somehow using that property for Lassie League fields violates some conservation restriction that's in place, boy, we got another, talk about a can of worms. So I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, all we're doing is transferring it between departments. If we're going to convey this out of the city for some other purpose, then I would suggest we'd have a whole nother analysis here. But all we're doing is a simple transfer from one department to the other. There's no conservation restriction according to that letter that KPR found. I can't understand why, I mean, with the reservation of just to make sure that the rec department wants the management of this property, I can understand that. I suppose it would be appropriate for them to formally determine that they want to manage this piece of property. And I think quite appropriately, I hope they want to manage it. But other than that, I think that's the only issue that's present here.
Okay, all right. So we're getting the recommendation on the floor is for further time. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, further time has been awarded to Communication 74, and we'll take care of those questions immediately. Thank you. We now move on to Communication 75. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. Communication 75, the Leominster School Committee voted to declare the Lincoln School surplus, and I'm requesting that the Leominster City Council vote to accept this property for the purpose of building the new police station. This property will be demolished in the upcoming months, and this was given further time last time because one of the councilors requested some information from the assessors. We received in our packet tonight the sheet from the assessor's office explaining the property, and based on the usage and the purpose of the request, my recommendation would be to grant this petition. But I would suggest you poll my committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield the floor to Council Bonanza, the clerk.
I am in favor.
Council Shalfo Zephyr, third member.
I am in favor, but through the chair, I have a quick question
Please, go ahead.
to the clerk. This doesn't fall under that historical building restriction at all in terms of demolition?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, I just want to double check that. Okay, no, I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, please requalify.
The recommendation is to grant Communication C-75.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council's heard the recommendation read to grant Communication 75. Are there any comments or questions on the floor? Council Frida?
I do believe, through the chair, I do
Please.
believe it was checked for historical when we talked about it at the police station committee meeting, that it was checked and found to be not a historical.
Not of historical, yeah, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Well,
Any
they
other
were going
comments?
in and determining whether there were any historical pieces that they could take out of there.
Good,
Yeah,
thank you.
the city isn't exempt from the ordinance, but
would
the
hope
Historical
not.
Commission, as Councilor Frida indicated, has already reviewed it.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of declaring a surplus, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Council David Cormier.
Yay.
Council Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Council Odenger.
Yay.
Council Bonanza.
Yay.
Council Feckley.
Yay.
Council Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Dombrowski.
Yay.
Council Frida.
I had one more quick question. Can I
We're
ask it?
voting, I'm sorry.
All right, yeah.
Yay? By a vote of 9-0. You said yay, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, by a vote of 9-0, the property has been declared surplus. I see the chairman of finance for the school committee in the audience. I think that's pretty good news, huh? It is. Good for you guys don't have to worry about taking care of that any longer. It's great. Okay, we're now under new business. Do we have any items under new business? New business. We're good? Okay, old business. Council Frida.
Before I talk about the other, I'll ask what my question was just going to be. I just wanted, through the chair, to Councilor Odenger, and I think the process is pretty much the same. The school has to be offered to anybody else, if I recall, in the city. If it's declared surplus, it has to be offered to every other department. Doesn't mean they're going to need it, but I think that's the process. Am I correct on that?
Correct, you're correct.
Yeah. Okay. My error, sorry.
Yep.
I mean, nobody's going to want to use it, but if there was another apartment that needed the land, they could argue for it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, my second point, bringing up all this the finance issues, this isn't to have a debate, and it's not to criticize anybody, and it's not to throw anybody under a bus, but I think it's certainly something that we should discuss. If this is something that happens every year, we should either have somebody down here that can talk to us and say why. I don't care if it takes till June 29th, but tell me why it's taken till June 29th. Tell me if there's an issue that's creating the problem. If there's a HIPAA issue, that's fine. When I look back at this 2015 news article, you, Mr. President, Councilor Nabrowski, Councilor Nickel, Councilor Savatelli, were appalled because we all found out by reading it in the newspaper. We didn't know it was being held up. Money wasn't being held by the state. And this the finance chair is correct. It isn't to scare anybody because we're not in financial difficulty. We have enough cash flow. That's the only time you run into a problem. And the fact that the school department hasn't gotten its money doesn't mean they can't spend it. The appropriation was made. I know how state funding works. The appropriation was made, they can spend it, and the city's going to be on the hook if the controller doesn't have the money to pay it in the end. So we're not in any danger, but I'd like to get an explanation as to why we're in this kind of a situation again, and how many times it happens. Because I don't think it's fair to the public. I don't think it's fair to anybody to start working on a budget and continually taking money out of our savings account when we don't know how much money we're going to be putting back in. And we know it'll be enough. We know it's going to cover it. But I do think if there's an excessive amount, we need to know that before we start talking about the budget. Because maybe it is the year to cut the tax rate. I mean, maybe it's not. But I find it difficult to have the discussion if we don't know what we've got for funding. So.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
As a council president, I will mediate the question with the mayor's administration, and we'll come up with a resolve for you. Okay? For the immediate year, for this year.
2015, you were the president then. Want to hear it? Same thing.
Go for it. Okay. Any other items under new business, excuse me, old business, old business? Council?
Okay, I'm going to consider this old business because we discussed this a year ago. Sunday, we had another festival at the Fitchburg Airport that resonated and reverberated throughout the village of North Leominster again. My concern is that we have tax-paying citizens of the city of Leominster that live in North Leominster who are trying to enjoy the quiet, have quiet enjoyment of their homes, have their own cookouts or outings with their own music, and that would have been impossible. The music is horrible because all you can hear is reverb. I know we had this discussion last year. I think that there was some conversations that perhaps we could speak to the city council, whoever gives them the permit to do that, because it went from noon until 10 p.m. and it was extremely loud. You could even hear the crowd. That's how it just comes across, because there's nothing keeping it. It goes across the train tracks, and it comes right into, you could hear it up on Main Street. It just hits on the buildings, and it's really, there's no consideration for the neighbors. Liberty Place, a lot of people, elderly people live there, you know that, President Marchand. It was really very unpleasant the whole day with that noise. So I don't know what we can do. I don't know if, I did text the mayor. He did get back to me, he said, got it. I don't know what he was going to do about it or what he did about it, but I would like more conversations, and if you can help me decide how we're going to be able to do that, because it's just, I find that to be reprehensible.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Council Bonanza?
I got a suggestion through the president. Ask that the city seek an injunction to prohibit the issuance of licenses for entertainment by that airport commission. You want something with teeth.
Okay, thank you. Any other items under old business, Council Frida?
Just to follow up on that, maybe we could have a joint meeting of the two city property committees. See if Fitchburg would sit with us and let them give the chair an opportunity to tell them what the problem is.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anything else under old business? Okay, we now move on to new business. I'm sorry, that was new business. Old business. Under old business, a couple other things here. I want to congratulate the staff, especially the veterans staff and all the volunteers that helped with a lot of planning to go into the Memorial Day recognition and celebration here in the city. So we deeply appreciate all of that. Any other items under old business? Okay, community calendar? Yes.
I was just going to make one brief comment. The Memorial Day activities were, I think, a huge success. You know, our Veterans Director and his staff did a wonderful job. And I just wanted to note, because I think all of us felt keenly the absence of our buddy, retired city councilor and former U.S. Marine, Jim Lanciani. He was not there for the first time in my long memory. And I know that I had conversations with several people about, geez, where's Jim? So if he's home and watching, I would just like him to know that he was missed.
Thank you. Good point. Appreciate that. Okay, we do have an event coming up on June 9th. It's the Firefighters Memorial Service right here in downtown at the main station. And that is going to be taking place with a mass in the morning, I believe at 8 o'clock, and followed by a ceremony and memorial service over at their monument. Okay, any other items? We're good? Motion to adjourn? Seconded? Thank you.